Hey, parents, quick question. Have you noticed that your baby's head looking a little bit flat on the side or on the back? Or maybe you're losing sleep, wondering if there's anything at all that you can do about it, or if this is even normal for your baby to have a flat spot looking like that on the back of their head. I'm going to share something with you tonight that most parents don't learn until it's too late. If you take away nothing else from this live, remember this. It is best to try to reshape your baby's flat spots and flat head and correct it early on in life. You want to do it during those first couple of months. So if you have a newborn or you're expecting, you want to hit that subscribe button right now because this information could save you months of worry and potentially save your baby from needing a helmet. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about tonight. Before we get started, do me a favor, if you found this video because you're searching for my baby has a flat spot, or my baby may need a helmet, or my baby has positional plagiocephaly or flathead syndrome, hit that like button so that you can continue to get updates whenever I go live and get the information that you need that could save you months of time. By hitting that like button, the algorithm will also share this video with other parents just like you and could potentially save somebody else some extra worry. So let's get into the main meat and potatoes of tonight's content. Let's talk about why this happens, because understanding the why will help you to prevent it. So when your baby is first born, this is kind of what your baby's skull looks like. Your baby has these sutures in between the bones of their head. These sutures are just a fancy name for these little cracks where these bones in your baby's head are actually these plates. And it's not fixed like my skull. You can see my whole skull is fixed. Your baby's head, when they're born, is not fixed. It's actually quite an ingenious little model because this allows your baby's head to be able to squeeze through the birth canal during delivery. And so, according to the CDC, a lot of babies, almost 50% of babies, are born with some sort of a head deformation simply through the birthing process. Now, there are a couple of other things that cause your baby to develop a flat head after your baby's born. One, back to sleep. They tell you, and they rightfully so, you're trained. In 1992, the CDC came up with this back to sleep campaign. And so what you want to do is have your baby sleeping on their back so that they can develop their head in the right way. Now, what you want is to be able to have your baby sleeping on their back so that your baby will be able to have what they need in order to, your baby will have what they need in order to be able to develop properly. So you want your baby to sleep on their backs like this so that they're safe. Okay? Now, if you have your baby sleeping on their back like this every single night, then eventually the back of baby's skull begins to become flat. So that is the first culprit in that, is that when you have your baby sleeping on their back, your baby can possibly develop a flat skull, a flatness in the back of their head. Now, that is what you want. But the second culprit is something called torticollis. Torticollis simply means that the neck muscles in the side of your baby's neck might be too tight on one side. And so you might see your baby with their head tilted towards one side. And that means that if your baby's head is tilted towards one side, they tend to sleep on one side of their head. And that leads to your baby's head developing this flat spot so that when you see your baby has this flat spot on the back of their head simply because of this muscle tightness that we call torticollis. Another culprit is baby containers. Now, if you have your baby sleeping in a baby container, your baby could possibly develop a flat spot simply because when baby is napping during the day, their head will tend to naturally roll towards one side or the other, especially if your baby's a newborn and your baby cannot hold their head up. When your baby's first born, they don't have a whole lot of neck strength. And so your baby will develop a flat spot once if they spend too much time laying on their back, especially if they do that during the day. The third one is, like I said, baby containers, where you have your baby in one container. Let's say you have your baby in a stroller, then you have your baby in a baby walker, then you have your baby in a bassinet. All of these are different types of containers that could possibly lead to your baby developing a flat spot on the back of their head. So now let's expand on these three types of flat spots. They're not just one type. There are different types of flat spots that could develop. The first one is this one, which is called a plagiocephaly. Plagiocephaly is where baby has a flat spot on one side of the back of their head, where the entire back of baby's head is not flat. It is mostly on one side. That's plagiocephaly. The next type of flat spot that you can have is this type here, which is called brachycephaly, which means that the baby is laying flat on their back and the entire back of baby's head becomes flat. The third one is this one called dolicephaly. These are some very technical names. Do not try to say these. This is where baby might spend a lot of time just lying completely on the side of their head, and lying completely on the side of their head, and their side of their head becomes flat, and their head has this kind of elongated kind of shape that you see here called dolicephaly. Now, there's also another condition that you might see, which is called craniosynostosis. Now, craniosynostosis is something very different from plagiocephaly or flathead syndrome. And this is much more of a serious medical condition where the bones in your baby's head tend to fuse too early. And this needs to be referred to the doctor for surgery, where they can then open back up these sutures in your baby's skull and allow your baby's skull to actually expand at more of a naturally progressive pace. So those are the three different types of flathead syndrome that you can see that your baby might have. And it's important that you be aware of these. You don't have to know the technical names, but just be able to recognize them when you see them. So let's move on and talk about where you can do things that you can do to help your baby to not have a flat spot or to perhaps not need a helmet. What you want to do is be able to adapt a couple of simple strategies that you can use for your little one to be able to help them to not need to be able to wear a helmet if you possibly can. Now, the first one is repositioning your baby. Let's pretend that this is your baby. If you put your baby to sleep with your head on this side of the crib one night, and your baby has toys on one side of the bed, your baby might rotate their head to one side to look at the toys. So what you want to do is shift your baby's head to the other side of the bed, and that will allow your baby to now have to turn their head in the other direction to look at the same set of toys. So that's the first technique that you can use. That will be strategy number one. Now, as your baby gets older, your baby will develop the ability to be able to track objects with their eyes and be able to turn their head from side to side, be able to rotate their head and look from side to side. So what you want to do while you have your baby laying down, you can use a toy above baby's head and move that toy from side to side and let baby rotate their head to follow that toy or that object or your face for that matter. So that's the second strategy that you can use. The third strategy, and I love this one, I made lots of videos about tummy time. You can go look at those videos if you want. The third strategy is tummy time. Lots and lots of tummy time. Put your baby in tummy time when your baby's awake and you're supervising your baby. You can do this several times throughout the day. You can do this when you're doing a diaper change. You can do this when your baby is awake. You can put your baby on your chest. You can do it after a feeding. There are lots of times, look for those small windows of opportunity where you can employ some tummy time and help your baby to develop the ability to hold their head up and just take the pressure off of the back of your baby's head. Now, another strategy that you can use is, like I said, tummy time. You want to do lots and lots of tummy time. I mentioned on your chest, over your lap. You can use a rolled towel. You can also use a therapy ball. I have a couple of videos with therapy balls, and those are great for helping your baby to spend more time on their tummy. Strategy number 4 is you can reduce container time. As you are working with your baby, as you're working getting household chores done during the day, if you find that you wind up putting your baby in a container, on the next container, or not a container, you will wind up putting your baby from one container to the next, and sometimes you don't realize an entire day has gone by and you haven't really allowed your baby to spend some time on their tummy. Another activity that I absolutely love and I recommend to the parents that I work with all the time is to have your baby in a baby carrier and allow your baby to be upright where you're carrying your baby in some sort of a baby carrier. This lets your baby start to develop some head control early on and be able to start looking around from side to side. The baby will be able to hold their head up, even if it's just for short periods of time. I made another video, a very nice video about baby carriers, how to choose a baby carrier. I'll put the link to that down below, and you can definitely check that one out. So now here are a couple of things that you want to think about when you are considering whether or not your baby needs a helmet. So what I'm going to do is I'm from a helmet. So one of the first things you want to do is look at your baby and try to figure out, okay, does your baby need a helmet? Like I said before, there are a lot of times when baby has some sort of a mild head deformation, and most of that will go away on its own. So how do you decide when your baby needs a helmet and when a helmet would be appropriate for your baby, whether or not your baby actually needs a helmet? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at your baby, position your baby like this, either on a bed or on the couch, so that you are looking at your baby this way, so that you can look at the top of your baby's head. Now, if your baby, the back of baby's head is completely flat, that will be a plagiocephaly, then that's something you definitely want to bring up with your pediatrician. If you find that you've been examining your baby's head, you measuring your baby's head, and your baby head shape is not changing, if you're doing the normal things that you would do with a baby, like the repositioning that I talked about with tummy time during the day, you are alternating, putting your baby on one side of the bed and then shifting them to the other side the other night, doing those types of things, and it's not working, then it's not getting any better. You definitely want to talk to your doctor about possibly considering a helmet. But if you look at your baby's head in this position and you pretend like you're drawing a line across the top of your baby's head from one ear to the other ear, this baby has a stitch in their head, so you can see that line right there. Now, if you notice that one ear is kind of like this, where it's pushed forward, right? Now, if you're looking at baby head on, and one ear is pushed a little bit forward, that's a deformation on one side. That's a plagiocephaly, but that's a severe plagiocephaly where now the baby's entire skull is beginning to become deformed. And so baby's head is starting to look more like this rather than completely rounded. Now, if you look at your baby head on and one eye seems to be kind of bulging forward a little bit like this, rather than both eyes being flat and looking at you the same way, that's another indication that, okay, your baby has more than a mild positional plagiocephaly, and you would definitely want to consider a helmet at that point because it means that the techniques that you've been using have not really been working for you, and that you are looking at a situation that's getting progressively worse as you move forward. Now, here's another thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about somebody, we talked about mild positioning to severe positioning, but let's talk a little bit about timing. Timing is probably the most crucial factor. I had one client recently reach out to me, a person on YouTube, and she asked me in the comments, my baby is 2 years and 8 months old. Is it too late for my baby to get a helmet and reshape their head? Unfortunately, the answer to that was absolutely no. It's unfortunately too late. Here's why timing is important. Think of it as like your baby's skull as like wet clay. It is flexible, it is moldable, but once that clay dries, then you cannot reshape that pot. It is going to break. And so, as you think about your baby moving forward, you want to think about, okay, how old is my baby? You're going to see a lot of deformation early on in your baby's life. You're going to see a lot of deformation, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe. It's going to happen pretty early. Now, between 4 to 6 months is the window of when you want to take action and say, you know what, I need to go speak to someone, get a referral to go to a craniosacral spot to be evaluated at clinic, and have someone look at your baby's skull, put a sock over baby's head, examine it, put on the electrodes on baby's head, examine it, take a 3D scan of your baby's head, and be able to figure out, does your baby need a helmet or not? That'll take the worry off of you, and they'll be able to recommend and build a custom-made helmet for your baby. There are some insurance considerations. Most insurance companies consider craniosacral therapy or craniosacral helmeting to be mostly cosmetic. A lot of times it is. Some people just want their baby to have that perfect shaped head, and it can cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 if you have to pay for it out of pocket. In some cases, I've worked with parents who had the opportunity to have their insurance company pay for it. That's something you would have to talk to your insurance company about and figure that out. But a couple of things is that the treatment of your baby when you're wearing this helmet is that your baby will need to wear the helmet for 23 hours out of the day. That's a long time. That's a big commitment. You take it off, you clean the helmet, and you're pretty much going to be putting it right back on. Now, you're going to have follow-up appointments that you have to go to adjust the helmet and make different adjustments to the helmet, put different pads in it, things like that. And as you move through the process, like I said, you have to go back different times. So you want to get it done sooner rather than later. By the time your baby gets to be about a year, 12 months, that is kind of late in the game to try to get the craniosacral therapy to work or the helmeting to work. Okay, so those are some of the things to think about while you are in the process of evaluating and figuring out if your baby should have a helmet or not have a helmet. Okay, if you have any questions, please drop a comment and let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you want me to make another type of video, if you have different concerns with regard to your baby's gross motor milestones, fine motor milestones, general development, definitely drop a comment and let me know. And I'll definitely make another video about it. Okay. As always, please keep on following the channel. If you haven't already, like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. All right. I will talk to you soon, my friends.